When you think of the term cleave damage in World of Warcraft, you know that somebody's referring to hitting multiple mobs. This is cleave. Yeah, that thing. Remember that? Yeah, Peppered Farm members. This is a warrior ability. We've had it for ages, and yeah, it does that. It does cleave damage. Haha. But anyways, we've had this for ages, and it hasn't been that great, in all honesty. I believe even in the current season, you use it just to apply deep wounds to all targets, so that way you get your damage modifier when Warbreaker's on cooldown. Except for maybe in the War Within, because there was a lot of changes to warriors in this latest beta build, and we're going to break it all down here. There was a lot of changes to warriors. Now, we're not going to break down everything here, like going over Mountain Thane and Slayer and whatnot. One key thing we'll go over, though, is that sudden death now stacks up to 2 times. This is actually a huge benefit, because sometimes you would have a sudden death proc, but you didn't want to use it right away. You wanted to prep for it, or get your Executioner's Precision buff, so that way you could use your Mortal Strike. Now with it stacking up 2 times, you get a little bit of grace period on when to use that sudden death, and you can choose an opportunity burst window to spam execute twice. That's really nice. More importantly, we're going over the arms changes, and this is some very interesting stuff when it comes to our AoE damage. And right there, the first thing, Cleave now replaces Whirlwind. What? Developers note, we feel that arms has an overwhelming number of abilities they must use in their AoE rotation. We're making Cleave replace Whirlwind to help alleviate that. Cleave now has a 4.5 second cooldown. It was a 3 second cooldown. Keep in mind it is modified by your haste, so you actually can reduce that CD. Developers note, we're happy with Cleave's position as the focus of ARM's AoE, but feel that 3 second cooldown put too much pressure on the rotation. I would agree with that. Increasing the cooldown will allow more room for overpower and rotational cooldowns like Sweeping Strikes and Warbringer. At first, I did have some concerns, because using Whirlwind was a really powerful rage dump for your Test of Might window. So for 1 GCD, you're able to spend 30 rage. But they've changed Storm of Swords, because Whirlwind used to be an 8 second cooldown, and it did increase damage. Now that they've changed Storm of Swords, that it's a refund of rage when you use that ability, Whirlwind isn't hitting as hard, and it also has the exact same rage cost as Cleave. So really, when doing a lot of dungeon testing in alpha and beta prior weeks, it was like going into a poll, it's like, okay, wait, do I hit Whirlwind or Cleave here? Well, I guess I apply Cleave for the deep wounds debuff, and then I spam Whirlwind like twice. It just felt kind of weird, and it gave a lot of choice paralysis on what ability to use and when. With this replacement, actually, Cleave is doing a lot of damage now. And, of course, you know I had to test out just to see what the largest crit was, or potential crit could be, with Cleave. Now keep in mind, when you're watching this footage, this is the talent tree that I'm using. And also I used really weird windows of opportunity, like with lining up your post-Blade Storm from Merciless Bone Grinder, and using Spear and Avatar after you have done your Demolish. So it's a little interesting, but again, the testing and idea behind this was how hard can Cleave hit for? That was the point. So I'm using collateral damage. I even tried to use Fervor of Battle, which now applies to Cleave, not just Whirlwind, so it slams primary targets. That way you add even more secondary Sweeping Strikes. And I also tested out Unhinged. Unhinged seems to not register entirely correctly on using Sweeping Strikes into Bladestorm to get your stacks, and doesn't feel like it is totally worth it at the moment with collateral damage. Might be down the road they may end up using Sweeping Strikes. We'll see. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is a weird rotation and trying to prioritize just how hard we can hit Cleave. So I got my Demolish stacks ramped up. I'm popping Sweeping Strikes so that way I can get my highest collateral damage stacks as possible, which ended up yielding 12, which is a 300% damage increase to your next Cleave Whirlwind. Keep in mind, that's just one time after the duration of Sweeping Strikes. So now I got my 12 stacks. Boom. I'm going to go in for Avatar, Warbreaker, Demolish, so that way I get a 10% damage increase in all mobs, Throwdown Spear, and Cleave. That was it. I just wanted this really, really nasty Cleave. And without Merciless Bone Grinder, I had a 5.8 million crit with Cleave. That's on a single target. That one Cleave dealt 18 million damage on a 4-target Cleave. What? TLDR and Cleave is doing a lot of damage. And with the age-old questions of like, when you use Cleave instead of Mortal Strike for a rotation, or like how many mobs you need to hit, you're going to want to hit 3 mobs. So if there's ever a pack or however many mobs you're fighting, if there's 3, you're hitting Cleave in most cases over Mortal Strike. Ideal world, you should be using your Sweeping Strikes anyways and use those Mortal Strikes. Cleave does not get a benefit from Sweeping Strikes. It just is a frontal cone in front of you. I sat there for a long time saying if I get a replicating Sweeping Strikes Cleave additional hit, Did not happen. Just Cleave is Cleave. So if you're going to be using Sweeping Strikes and Cleave, please don't. Just use Sweeping Strikes for your Mortal Strike and your overpowers, and then use Cleave as like a rotation into it. But 3 targets is what you want to hit. So Cleave, its normal hits were hitting for 188, its crits were for 482, and for Mortal Strike, normal hits for about 400,000, and a crit was 1 million. So 3 targets. You want to hit 3 targets. That way it's the same rage cost, and you're getting more damage out, and you're applying deep wounds to everything. There you go. Question answered. Now, in this testing, first thing to keep in mind is I actually didn't have Merciless Bone Grinder up for that 5.8 million. That was a lot. It's really weird, and you're probably never going to want to do that as a rotation. I just, again, wanted to see how hard it can hit for. One thing over here is Fervor of Battle. Fervor of Battle now also affects Cleave, not just Whirlwind. So, if you're cleaving at least 2 more targets, when Cleave or Whirlwind hits 2 or more targets, right, you get a slam out of it. When doing that, for some reason, it maybe just wasn't registering the GCD correctly for the ability, maybe because the animation is like kind of a cast, but I was able to get more collateral damage strikes, or buffs, stacks of it, by just using Overpower and Mortal Strike, instead of just spamming Cleave. I tried many times. The highest I could get for a collateral damage stack was about 10. I never reached 12. The only time I hit 12 for those strikes was when I was using Overpower and Mortal Strike. So there might be something funky with like using Cleave and its animation having to register. Not quite sure. But that's how it registered. That's how it felt. So I don't think it'd end up taking Fervor of Battle, even though you do get your collateral damage. Oh my god. Even though you do get your collateral damage stacks off of your slam from your Sweeping Strikes. There's a lot of things here. So, TLDR, I don't think you're going to be using that. There you go. That's Cleave. This is Cleave. You refer to Cleave damage. It's Cleave. Cleave. Don't ask Warrior, hey, what's your Cleave damage like? We're probably going to be literal. We got one brain cell, man. We're going to be like, I don't know, like it can hit for 5.8 million. That's kind of neat. Like, no, what's your AoE damage? Doesn't matter. How do you feel about Cleave being part of the core Arms Warrior AoE rotation? Do you like that we replaced Whirlwind? Do you like having it as an option that if you talent for Cleave, it just takes it away? Or do you think you're going to end up using a Whirlwind spamming build instead? I think I'm going to go the route of using Cleave. Keep in mind, even though it says it replaces Whirlwind, you can actually just not take that talent and go for a regular Whirlwind AoE rotation. You just won't have both now, so it eliminates that factor. Personally, I'm a fan of it. I like it a lot. I think it hits really hard. Again, it's beta. That's probably going to get nerfed to the ground, let's be honest. Like, Whirlwind's hitting for like 50k on a crit. Cleave was not doing that. Not even anywhere near it. So it's going to be either this weird, funky Whirlwind spamming rage dump build for Colossal Might, or it's going to be use Cleave. Cleave is strong. Big damn. We're warriors. Big damn. I like it. I think it's cool. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and let me know if this actually encouraged you to try out a warrior. Maybe you didn't like the Whirlwind and Cleave scenario before. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you would like to see more of my face for whatever reason, you can always check me out on Twitch. I'm live 6 nights a week. I start at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I almost said Eastern. That would have been way off. 10 p.m. Eastern, if you need that. There you go. I did the math for you. I don't know the rest of the world off the top of my head. I'm sorry. Also, I have Instagram, TikTok. This is the YouTube channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Like the video if you like, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers. Try to make tomorrow absolutely legendary.